Hey everyone, this is Jane with Barlow Herbal, and in this video I'm going to share some information about a magical mystical plant called Ashwagandha. Now this plant has been used for over 3,000 years, so the ancient texts and all the research from just indigenous people, millions and millions of people using this for centuries. The proof is always in the pudding, right? And what I love is that modern research is finally catching up to one of these most beautiful root plants that has been helping human beings for so many things for so many years, and modern research is finally catching up. And I think we're coming full circle with so many plants and so many medicinal herbs that have a long proven track record. Now, ashwagandha actually means, ashwa means horse and gandha means smell. So it has a very strong smell of the horse. And a lot of people believe that it smells a little bit like horse urine, interestingly. Now, I am very familiar with ashwagandha. I've used it here and there throughout my life, and I do take it every single day because it's one of the herbs in my brain glow. So this is something that is a really important herb for clarity, cognitive function, plus all the other things that it does. Now, ashwagandha is originally from India, Nepal, Pakistan, the Middle East, and Northern Africa. And this was something, I wasn't aware that it was from all these places, but it makes sense. If you look at the rich history of this plant, that would make sense. Now, it's cultivated very successfully in the US, in Australia, and even parts of Southern Europe. So you can pretty much grow this anywhere. In fact, interestingly, even though I live in a climate that we have very cold winters, we get early frost sometimes, we get late frost, this is a plant that I personally know two people where I live that grow it every season. So it's not something that's a perennial, it won't come back every year typically, but it does grow from seeds quite robustly in just a 6-month, 5 or 6 month growing season. Now, the part of the plant that you use is the root, and this is where the majority of the medicinal properties are. Now, ashwagandha is in the nightshade family. In fact, I've even kind of heard that it's in the tobacco family, which is in the nightshade family too. So this plant is really cool to watch grow because it does grow really fast. And it's got these beautiful, bushy, it's kind of shrub-like green leaves and little berries which contain all the seeds, and they are edible, but most people don't eat them. But this is where the seeds are, and they're covered by these green, the seeds are covered by this green kind of a pod. And it reminds me of a tomatillo, where as the plant starts to mature, starts to get ready to harvest, the seed pod will turn flaky and papery and thin and will fall off. And that's where this little orangish red berry lives. And if you were to squish a little ashwagandha berry in your fingers, there's a ton of seeds. You could get a ton of seeds and more ashwagandha plants for the next season, just from one little seed. Now, the cool thing is the two friends that I know that grow ashwagandha here in Utah, both of these friends have found that they actually grow better with better root systems when it is straight from the seed. So they sometimes will even just take the seeds when they're fresh and put them in the ground, cover them up with a very thin layer of soil where they want it to grow the next year, and it grows. And the roots are a little bit easier to handle, and the roots, some of the main tap roots are thicker. And the other ways that they've tried it is putting it into a pot, which is a really good way to do it if you live in a zone like where I live, where it's not tropical weather or just weather where it likes full sun. It doesn't like the frost. It likes to be, you can get an ashwagandha plant in its environment and you can actually get some super huge root systems because it might be 2 or 3 years old. But the beautiful thing about ashwagandha, you can plant seeds and harvest the roots every single year, which is amazing. Now, what both of my friends have discovered is when they grow it in a pot, the roots are a lot more thin and fibrous, and there's just like a clump of a whole bunch of very small roots. But when they let them germinate from seeds in the ground where they're going to live and where they're going to grow, they tend to get bigger tap roots, which you just are getting more ashwagandha. They're easier to process. If you've ever seen an ashwagandha plant that's dug up and pulled out of the ground, I've been able to experience this one time. And you use a pitchfork. You really want to use a shovel because you don't want to break the roots. So you loosen the soil around a root and you dig it out. You dig around the edges and then you pull it out. It's got all these, one of the most cool experiences is harvesting any type of root that is medicinal, carries a lot of properties. And then you've got the fun part of cleaning it. You wash, you spray it off with water, you let it dry, you cut it up, you make sure there's no dirt in there. And there's so many things that you can do with this. My favorite is in either capsule form or powder form, which is the most common. This is something that's not typically you can definitely tincture it, but it's not a really well-known plant that's tinctured. In fact, one of my favorite things to do with it is to buy it where you're getting like a quarter pound or a half a pound or even a pound of just pure organic ashwagandha root powder, and putting a half a teaspoon or quarter teaspoon, which is a good place to start, in a cup of warm milk. Now, it doesn't have to be cow milk. It could be goat milk. It could be nut milk, whatever you prefer. But a lot of people have been doing this, not just in our modern time, but this is one of the ways that ashwagandha has been consumed over the centuries. So you take a quarter teaspoon, half a teaspoon ashwagandha powder, stir it into whatever milk you prefer, warm it up, just like drinking warm milk before bed, right? And then sometimes people will mix in a little bit of honey. And the reasons that people have been doing this, first of all, it's a very powerful adaptogen. So it helps with stress, it helps with anxiety, it lowers cortisol. So if you're in a stress, fight or flight, just because it's modern stress, then this is a plant and a root that's been used in modern times quite extensively for this, because I feel like the modern world is finally catching up. But this is also an herb that, because it does have adaptogenic properties, it's really good for sleep. So warm milk with some ashwagandha powder stirred in, a touch of honey if that's what you like, which is sometimes nice because of the taste and the smell of ashwagandha. Now, what I find is that because my body loves things like this, and I think we crave the things that our body is needing. So that is one thing about things like ashwagandha. I love the smell. It is very potent and powerful. It's a bit bitter, but it is so powerful and amazing. Now, there are lots and lots of health benefits to ashwagandha. So I'm going to go over these and just share some. This is some of the ancient wisdom that these have been known for literally thousands of years. Calm and resilience. It's used to steady a restless mind, quiet anxiety, and cool the heat of anger or fear. And this is some of the really cool information I found in some of the older books that I have, mostly from my collection of books from my dad's library. And that's really fun because they put some of these things in. Energy and recovery, to rebuild after illness, exhaustion, or heartbreak. I think about what happens to our hormone levels, our energy levels when we have heartbreak, when we have a death in the family, maybe when we're dealing with really this matrixy world that we live in, and we're aware. But if we tune in, we realize all the tools we have, and we realize that Mother Earth is providing quietly all of these beautiful things for us to tap into, tune into, and add into our life for things like heartbreak. Unfortunately, as human beings, this is something that's part of life and part of living, right? Sleep and restoration, okay, to help the body remember how to rest deeply. I really love some of these old-fashioned descriptions of just saying, ashwagandha helps with sleep. So it doesn't go into all the scientific stuff. It just basically to help the body remember how to rest deeply. How beautiful is that? Because we are here on a journey of remembering who we are, and never before has there been a better time to be here and gather in these herbal tools that help us do that, okay? Vitality and fertility. Okay, this is a big one. This is one that I have heard about forever. Vitality and especially fertility, okay? Said to rekindle the life force, strengthen love, and support healthy cycles. And this is not just for women, but this is for men too. In fact, it's very well shown even in modern research how good it is for men, fertility, increasing motility and sperm count, okay? So this is something, and testosterone, because it's an adaptogen that affects your hormones. So this is something that, because I've spent most of my adult life in the gym, it's a very comfortable place for me. I started teaching classes when I was 18. I was a personal trainer for many years, and being in the gym is a very comfortable, fun place for me. And because I've been in the gym, there's always like learning about new supplements, what someone's using, what someone's doing. So ashwagandha is not a plant that I learned about first from my dad. It was a plant I learned about first from my colleagues and my friends in the gym. So this is something that is, to me, one of the best things about such a powerful, beautiful adaptogen like ashwagandha, okay? Clarity and focus. And this is for students, warriors, and monks who are seeking stillness in motion. Okay, so think about that. We live in a fast-paced world, and it seems to be speeding up. So we seek stillness in a world full of motion, right? And this to me is so beautiful. This was one of the reasons, honestly, why I added ashwagandha to my Brain Glow, is because of how it improves cognitive function, mental clarity, focus. Okay, it's one of the 8. And then longevity, which is rejuvenation, and it's meant to preserve youth and spark life into old age. So this is not just something that you take for vitality and stamina and all of the stuff and good rest and you know, hormone function and all that. This is meant for not just young people, but this is meant to spark life well into old age. Okay, and this is a passage I found in one of my dad's old books, which is really cool. So then this, in modern terms, these same qualities line up with what we now see in the research. And this is what we see. It lowers cortisol, which is the stress hormone. That alone can cause you all kinds of problems. You have spiked cortisol just from normal modern stress. It ages you, it lowers your immune system, it messes your digestion, it messes up your sleep. When you have that stress hormone just flowing through you constantly, that is not good. I mean, we all know that at this point, right? So it lowers cortisol and stress hormones. This is what it does naturally. And from my experience with it, in the times that I have had it, I've found other ways that seem to really help me manage stress without always, you know, and I'm not a big milk drinker, so even doing milk, but when I did do the milk, and I will say that this is something that I used more than 10 years ago when my mom passed, is ashwagandha in, I think I was using cashew milk then, but almond milk, goat milk, cow milk, whatever is your jam, warmed up with some ashwagandha powder, stirred in, a little bit of honey. You can literally feel this. And what I would really suggest that you do is do some of your own testing on this. Get some organic ashwagandha root powder and try it out. It's amazing. It's really amazing. So lowers cortisol and stress hormones, improves sleep quality, enhances strength and endurance, sharpens cognition and memory, and gives you better immune function and inflammation balance. So these are all the things that are in the modern research. You can find studies. And what I would suggest is to do a little bit of research on your own. And, you know, just see, is this right for me? Now, as always, do your own due diligence. You know, I am not a doctor, and this is not meant to be medical advice. This is just based on my own experience and my own research. Now, I would say, especially if you have some health issues, you're on some medications that, you know, you don't know how they're going to interact with certain natural things, always check in with your doctor And if you can find a naturopath, a functional medicine doctor, someone who is familiar with not just the drugs, the prescriptions, but the natural world and how they might interact with each other, I think it's really, really important to use your common sense, do your best due diligence, know that we're all different. We all have a different life. We have a different constitution. But in that same vein, we are all human beings. We're here experiencing this life together. And I think there's no better time than to bring a beautiful adaptogen like ashwagandha into your life. So do some of your own research. I'd love to hear, what do you think about this? And have you used it extensively? What did I leave out? And have you been able to grow this? I think that after just getting on this video and talking about ashwagandha, I do love that it's part of my daily routine with my Brain Glow. I do love that. And I've been taking Brain Glow now for almost 15 years, which is amazing. But it makes me want to kind of revisit it with maybe some organic nut milk and a little bit of Manuka honey, which is my favorite honey right now, and just to see what I feel, because there have been times during this past year that I have had extra moments of high stress that I'll go to the gym, I'll exercise, I'll do all kinds of things. And I will, just before I end here, I will say, if you're a person who is young, 20s, 30s, 40s, and even for me, I can say if you're in your 50s, you're young too. And I consider myself young as well, in my 60s. But this is something that if you're taking it for, hormone regulation, stress relief, all of these things, do some due diligence and consider putting this into your supplement routine. It is a beautiful, beautiful plant to know about and have in your arsenal and possibly grow in your garden. Super, super fun to watch it grow. This is something I am planning to put into my garden this year. So thanks for tuning in today, guys. I'd love to know what you think about this, and we will see you in the next one.